Oh my god. Where do I even start? I guess a good way to start is Donkey Kong Bananza is unironically one of the best platformers I have ever played in my life. Unironically, genuinely, absolutely. I don't think it's worth trying to do like a build up onto what I think about this game. It's phenomenal. Donkey Kong Bananza is genuinely such a fantastic game that was somehow expected and unexpected of just how good it is. That initial reveal was, for me personally, the most hype reveal of any video game. Note that I'm a goo goo gaga by YouTube standards. Because while pretty good, that Switch 2 Direct really only had one big first-party title with Mario Kart Worlds, which I think you could tell I quite liked that game, but couldn't particularly carry a launch year. Yeah, that reveal was, pretty hype for me. I love DK ever since I tried out Tropical Freeze when it came to the Switch, and man, oh man, I loved Tropical Freeze. I still do. It's difficult, creative, exciting, and more unique than a lot of other 2D platformers I've played. So I was ready for another DK game to be right around the corner, considering they decided to re-release a Donkey Kong game. No. DK was pretty absent for a very long time, which was unfortunate because a third Retro Studios country game could have been absolutely phenomenal. So obviously the fact that we got a 3D Donkey Kong, which was so completely out of the left field, was extremely exciting. However, despite what I said 3 seconds ago, this wasn't completely out of the left field. We were getting rumors of a 3D Donkey Kong by the Odyssey team, EPD5, for as far back as 2022. I just thought these rumors were completely false and completely forgot about them, which made that initial reveal of a three-dimensional Donkey Kong, which very clearly was made by the Odyssey team, so much more exciting. All of that backed up by a Nintendo Direct that was actually good and revealed new information on the video game we were buying. Man, isn't that so cool? Aren't you so glad they only did that with Donkey Kong Bananza and nothing else? So, to conclude, this was for sure an exciting release for me. We finally had a new Nintendo game to play, and out of all the new ones, it was a new entry in one of my newfound favorite franchises of all time, DK. And God, is it some new entry, because this is Donkey Kong Bananza, naughty or nice. By the way, full spoilers ahead, and I'm not giving you timestamps. If you haven't finished the game and you don't want to be spoiled, this isn't the review for you. The first aspect I want to touch on is how genuinely fantastic this game controls. Even more than the retro games, Donkey Kong feels like he has the heft of a real gorilla, while still making this game feel incredibly fast. Destroying stuff is absolutely addicting, and nothing beats unintentionally punching into a cave with a golden banana in it. Turf surfing and chunk jumping are some of the best movement mechanics in a 3D platformer. I'm being dead-ass serious. These stylistically interesting mechanics allow you to get so much fancier with your movement than you could have otherwise. It feels fantastic to pull off the turf surf into turf surf capital into chunk jump. A tech fairly similar to the Odyssey cap jumps, but way more flashy. And movement and mechanics get even flashier once Bananzas come into play. Oh man! These are animal transformations that you unlock as you go. So, RIP to animal buddies, but to be honest, this is so much cooler. These are also very fun to control, and some of these feel like an entire game could be made around them. All of them are extremely fun to play around with, but by far the most exciting to get creative with are the elephant, ostrich, and snake Bananzas. And being able to switch between Bananzas at any point in your transformation makes it even better and more interesting. And the level design does a great job at making every Bananza important, even after their home level is completed. A great example of this is when you're in the snake layer, you have to use your elephant Bananza to slurp up all the juicy good lava to collect the banana. It's just small little tidbits like this that makes the Bananzas feel like a more integral piece of the game. In general, more individual Bananzas feel more integrated into the game's overall gameplay loop than individual Odyssey captures ever did. These are such cool transformations, and I adore them. All of them are extremely fun in their own way, whether it's from their visual design, their movement, the puzzles built around them. All of these Bananzas were given perfect focus throughout the entire game. I never felt like Bananzas were overused nor underutilized. They feel like integral parts of the game, but they don't take control of the overall gameplay loop of f***ing destroying everything and grabbing those sweet bananas. And if we just real quick pause the footage right here, what if I told you that these skill points lets Donkey Kong Bananza perfect the collectathon genre? What, you don't believe me? Let's talk about that. A problem every 3D platformer collectathon comes across is the collectible to gameplay ratio. How much should a player prove themselves before receiving their reward? Let's talk about those first couple 3D Marios, since DK is made by the same development team. Let's use this graph. Coolio. The first 4 3D Mario collectathons, those being 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy 1 and 2, required a lot more gameplay per collectible. You typically need to play for around 5 minutes to collect your Star/Shine. Meanwhile, flash forward to Odyssey and Bowser's Fury, almost a decade later, they require a lot less gameplay per collectible. This is because, with these more open levels, it's more difficult to make intricate platforming challenges without breaking the immersion of the world. The second you overutilize basic platforming stages in your open level, your world doesn't necessarily feel like a world anymore, rather just a vessel for platforming stages. And it makes seeing a collectible far off in the distance much harder to visualize how to get it. This is a problem Sonic Frontiers had, which, while a pretty okay game, Frontiers' gameplay was split into 2 different gameplay loops. There's roller coaster and then open worlds, and these two don't necessarily mix right and leads to a dissatisfying experience. So for those at the back of the class not listening, when you're dealing with these open world environments, you typically want to spread your collectibles out a lot less so they can feel like a much more natural part of the world. This is what Odyssey and Bowser's Fury did. So here we have 2 different ways to tackle collectibles. There is lots of gameplay for a collectible, and then there is lots of collectible for a bit of gameplay. And they both have their strengths. The old format was basically about how powerful the collectible felt. It allowed collectibles to feel so much more valuable. I mean, you had to work a lot for this, so you feel satisfied with your reward and it urges you to continue playing. Meanwhile, with the newer Odyssey approach, sure, you don't get that same satisfaction factor, but it allows the developers to include a lot more ideas in a smaller space, leading to a much faster pace. Both are extremely fun, and I love both aspects. So how did Donkey Kong handle it? In the absolute perfect way. Let's start talking skill points. When you collect 5 of the golden bananas in this game, you get a skill point, which can be spent on different buffs or abilities for DK. Now, these skill points on their own are pretty fun in of themselves. It gives you abilities like being able to turf surf on top of water, make a crater when you punch downward as a snake, or smaller buffs like being able to hold more than 1 apple juice. It's fun to choose your own specific abilities for DK, and it makes everyone's experience with Bananza just a bit different. But what it also does is fix the problem 3D Mario has had since 64. Despite always leading into fantastic games, no matter which format you did with 3D Mario, you were missing out on something. Whether it was the speed in which a player would discover new ideas, or is the satisfaction of collecting the collectibles. But with these skill points requiring 5 bananas, you get the immense satisfaction of working hard for a reward, but since it takes 5, it allows them to express as many ideas as they want with this game's design, leading to an honestly perfect way of handling collectibles in this game. Collecting 5 bananas and unlocking a skill point gives me the same satisfaction as I do whenever I collect a Power Star in Galaxy, but I experience new creative ideas with this game's mechanics just as quickly as I did in Odyssey and Bowser's Fury. So, TLDW, Donkey Kong Bananza perfected the collectible, and I genuinely mean it. It managed to hit the perfect sweet spot, hitting all the marks 3D Mario games would hit all at once, while still managing to feel like its own spin on the idea rather than just a simple mashup. It cooked. Moving on to the level design, it almost feels pointless to point out that it's good. It's EPD8, of course it's going to be fantastic. However, it's missing a bit of what I loved about the country games and how they handled their design of the levels. In Tropical Freeze, everything in the design was organic. There were never any random floating blocks or zip lines. Everything felt completely cemented into the world, and it made for a much more immersive experience than most 2D platformers manage. And unfortunately for me personally, DK Bananza didn't quite hit that for me. It does a better job at making its design feel natural than, say, 3D Land or Sonic Lost Worlds, but there are your fair share of random floating blocks in this game, and yeah, it's a tad unfortunate. But if that minor nitpick is the reason the actual design of this game's worlds are so great, holy shit, it's worth it. You constantly have multiple ways to tackle a challenge in this game. You can punch your way to the boss, you could take the intended path, you could throw a block to drop the platform, or you could just roll, jump, roll past said gap. You can use Ostrich Bonanza to glide across a large portion of the land, or you could throw the funny sea thing to build you a bridge across the large portion of land. Get the picture? Everything you do in this game is your choice. I never felt forced to do something. If I didn't want to go to the next sublayer, I could just continue exploring the current sublayer. I guarantee you this game's speedruns are going to be just as insane, if not crazier, than Odyssey's, because this game does not give a shit about how you play it. If you beat the final boss, you beat the game. And this is in a way that feels so much more intentional and rewarding than a game like FNAF Security Breach, where jumping against a goddamn tapestry lets you beat the game in an instant. Hey, this is totally unrelated to DK, but that footage I got for the tapestry jumping thing for Security Breach, it is a legit speedrun tactic. But the footage, the video I use for footage is so funny, because he'll after he jumps into the tapestry, it breaks the game, which is usual, and then he just falls into the void, has a fucking seizure on the controller, and then he spawns at the end of the game with a phaser blast out of nowhere. On the topic of bosses, though, this is the only part of Donkey Kong Bananza I'd, genuinely criticize, because while Bananza's bosses are extremely creative and make great use of both Bananza effects and the main mechanic of destruction, as well as being cool that pretty much all main bosses are built off of an enemy you fought in their respective layer, these bosses are pitifully easy, especially for a Donkey Kong game, considering the country games in 64 are hard as balls. Go ahead, beat Tropical Freeze's Polar Bear in hard mode as DK. Give it your best shot. Meanwhile, Bananza, while extremely fun ideas like having to weigh down a bat's wings while parts of the terrain, or ripping off chunks of the boss themselves and using it against them, these bosses don't put enough of a challenge for you to actually have to get creative with these combat ideas. Admittedly, except for the GOAT King K. Rool, his boss battles, 2 to 3, it depends on if you count this one. These are genuinely difficult and fun boss battles that make use of every single Bonanza, besides probably the Ostrich, unfortunately. Don't worry, Ostrich, you're my favorite. In general, they treated K. Rool with immense respect. The twist of him being in this game at all was actually pretty well set up with all the crocodile imagery with these enemies. And then bringing back the end, question mark, with a banging, absolutely banging remix of Gangplank Galleon put the absolute biggest smile on my face. This game overall treats Rare's legacy with a lot more respect than they were ever given at Microsoft. Well then, I've mentioned music, the cork has been opened. Let's talk about this game's soundtrack. Donkey Kong games have always had some of the best video game songs ever composed. Jungle Interlude, Sticker Brush Symphony, Busted Bayou, the list goes on for however many songs are in the Donkey Kong franchise. And I can confidently say that Bananza has another rocking soundtrack. I do admit that I think some of the more open world music just needs to grow on me, but damn, those Bananza themes go crazy. Ostrich Bonanza, for example, feels like a high-speed cop chase. Elephant Bonanza sounds like the funny Ha Ha Grug song. And Snake Bananza is just goated. And while not as memorable as the Bananza themes, the main overworld themes still have some good songs. Tempest Lair has a fantastic jazzy theme when you're in the Elder Room, gives off a good Inkwell Hell vibe, and Cuphead might have the greatest video game soundtrack of all time, so that should speak volumes. Lagoon Lair, while not nearly as good as the Cascade Kingdoms theme, is another GOAT when it comes to first main level themes. There's also some really solid remixes in here. For example, there's the Rambi theme from Donkey Kong 64. There's also your Jungle Hijinkses and Sticker Brush Symphonies and so on and so forth. Both remade here and they both sound fantastic. I've been seeing some people say that they're a bit disappointed by Bananza's soundtrack, and that's perfectly fair, but my recommendation is to sit down and give the main songs a good listen, because I felt fairly the same when I first finished the game, but believe me, it's a damn good soundtrack. Not quite on Odyssey or Galaxy's level, but I don't think it's fair to hold most games to that level. I'd say it's pretty comparable to Sunshine's though, and you know what? Maybe it'll grow on me with time. We don't know yet. Bananza overall feels like a full evolution of its predecessor, aka Super Mario Odyssey. This game has a lot of ideas ripped straight out of Odyssey. The bonus linear stages come straight out of Odyssey, obviously, but it's evolved. 3 collectibles per stage rather than just 2 allows the developers to get more in-depth with the idea they were building a stage around. They both have heavy emphasis on exploration, but Donkey Kong's level design feels so much more personal due to its destructive mechanics, while still being a fun map to traverse. Now, is this game better than Odyssey? Don't make me choose, I'm being so serious. This game is a full evolution from Odyssey, but not all of the evolution was a completely clean slate. It does fail in a few areas compared to Odyssey. Most specifically, its post-game. It's a lot lamer than Odyssey's. These rehearsals are just way too long, man. They're decently fun, besides the elephant one. That one can die and burn in hell.
For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole.
And yeah, compared to Odyssey's hundreds of new collectibles by the little space rock things, and the brand new levels with the 2 darker and dark sides on the moon, it's really no contest between both of these games post-game. Odyssey's is much better, but that is otherwise just a few small dents on a practically perfect 3D platforming experience. Bananza is a physical embodiment of when you realize your goat still has it. When I first played Tropical Freeze, I was completely enamored of how good a 2D platformer can truly be. No 2D Mario ever matched Tropical Freeze up to that point. Wonder got pretty close, but I'd still argue Tropical Freeze is the absolute king. And here we are again. Donkey Kong once more challenging Mario as the king of his own game, matching everything his games have and introducing more new mechanics and ideas than I could possibly count. Being the platformer that takes the big risks, having a potentially volatile destruction mechanic, having overpowered transformations that could have easily made the game too easy, having the closest thing a non-Zelda/Metroid game could get to a story. Donkey Kong Bananza is one of those games that shouldn't be real, but it is. Okay, we can't end the video that corny, you know? Yeah, I stand by everything I said. I listened back to that while I was editing, and I just thought it would be a bit cringy to end the video off that, so here's kind of an unscripted mic session. Fun fact, this is the first YouTube video I've made that didn't have an annoying ass halt in production 80% of the way through. With my Mario Kart ranking, my Shy Guy Bazaar session, all the editing got deleted, so I had to re-edit all of my Shy Guy Bazaar section. And with my Springtrap video, my editing software got completely bugged. So I had to record what I already had done and then delete and then re-upload the editing software to fix it. And so that's why that one came out a bit sloppy. I didn't really have much time. But hey, there's no issues with this one, which is pretty cool. I'm happy about that. Really, if you have any interest for DK Bananza, you should absolutely give it a shot. It is a phenomenal game. Other than that, that's about all I have. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.